Hello, I'm Joe Ferguson. This is my studio in Weston. I've been doing sculpture for 60 years or so, and if you'll follow me, we'll go inside.
The Old Cambridge Baptist Church allowed me to experiment with the concrete.
Okay, I was always looking for different ways to set the stained glass in different mediums, and this was a chance to do it with this commission over in Old Cambridge Baptist Church in Cambridge, 1962, and this glass is set in concrete. It was a memorial window for Dean Samuel Miller, who'd been a minister in the church there. The idea here is that this is a tree of life, the symbolism, and the tree itself is the dark part reaching out. And there are three symbols of God in the top of it: the sun, the measuring the universe, and the seven stars of creation, fire. Then at the bottom there are thorns and things like that that suggest real life.
Another way of using concrete and using glass in the Cambridge Church was given to me by Le Corbusier, the architect, the great architect, and he did a chapel in Ronchamp in France where they cast very deep concrete shafts and put a little piece of glass on the outside so that the concrete shafts would receive the reflected light from the small piece of glass at the end. It would sort of amplify the color being projected onto the inside of this great wall of concrete. So it made an abstract pattern. We made some forms of plywood with shafts that allowed for the insertion of a piece of glass at the outside part of it. And then we just shoveled it full of concrete. It was an interesting process, and fortunately I had a fellow with me that was very good at doing that sort of thing. The end product, again, is using light, using the dynamics of it so that the presentation of the reflected light on the concrete is always changing. And as the light diminishes, the blues take over. And as the sun reaches its zenith, it becomes a yellow. I was asked to do some work for the Christian Science Pavilion. In the center, there was a kind of obelisk with some sayings from Mary Baker Eddy scribed on it. The committee got together before the opening, and Durrell Stone, who was the architect of the pavilion, came in, and he was like God Almighty. And he said, "It looks like a marble grave." And everybody seemed to agree with him. And it was resolved that I decorate the column with stained glass. The second year, it was decided that the obelisk was not a good representation of Mary Baker's religion. So we had to decide what to do. And so I made a model of a stained glass tree. The pavilion was sort of circular and had a glass ceiling, so I made this tree sort of soaring up into the glass ceiling. It was welded steel, and it was 24 feet high, 14 feet in diameter, quite a large object. To build it, I had to cut a hole in the floor of my studio, my barn, which gave me 24 feet from the basement up to the ceiling. I welded together a big armature that looked like a tree, had branches that stretched out 14 feet, and then made sections of stained glass bound with copper foil and hung them onto this tree. And it looked pretty good. I was very happy with it anyway. And the symbolism was the growth of a tree or the growth of life itself. And I was happy with that. Most people seemed to be too. It took about 2 years of my life to build these structures.
In this, I built an armature of bar stock, and then put had angle iron frameworks made for the various people that diminished as they went higher. And then the glass was set into all of these angle iron frameworks. There were 26 windows in the chapel, so it was an awful lot of welding. I had to learn how to weld to do this, and had to work with union people, and it was really quite a job. Unfortunately, the chapel's been destroyed since then. Things go on, things evolve.
The Vernon commission I did for the same architect I'd done with the Pierce Chapel. He designed a truncated pyramid where the top of the pyramid was chopped off at an angle, and there was a big skylight there. And my chore was to fill that skylight. The architect said he wanted to have something like crinkled cellophane, so I had 300 acrylic tetrahedrons manufactured, and I hung them into this skylight from beneath this skylight. I also did side windows that were a red abstraction. The Vernon Church had real problems with infiltration of water. The construction was unique and interesting in a theoretical way. All of the sides of the pyramid were cast T-bars of concrete, and they were sort of locked together. But the problem was that they leaked like a sieve, and no amount of caulking of the joints between the sections of concrete was able to stop the leaking, and eventually it was torn down. Traditions of Wayland is a retirement home. I wanted to get the message of life and the cycles of life. The central panel is supposed to convey the idea of life, the living of life, and the thrill of living itself. The latter panel is more somber, and that has to do with the cycles of life, that there is a beginning and that there is an ending. He had a unique situation with a large window over their dining room table that was at an angle and really lit the whole room. I wanted to keep it light and airy, and so I built this three-dimensional construction of colored glass triangles to give the impression of water. This friend is also a yachtsman, and he's always on the water all the time. So it seemed just appropriate, and he was very happy. And the Running Tide name came later on. At this time I was making small models that tried to still use the stained glass without a lot of metal around it, almost taking the screen construction out of the surrounding wooden form, setting it up to be outside. The original model was soldered together, but I'd improved my welding in aluminum so that I could repeat the soldered small model in welded aluminum and aluminum bar stock. This was really helpful to make outdoor pieces, and the only thing I had to do with that was weld flanges onto the aluminum bar stock so that I could insert the acrylic colored plastic. It was really fun to do this. I was happy to give this to the Burlington Art Association.